me.
Some of the newest news, man. The Game Awards.
They dropped.
They haven't stopped. They still going strong.
Yeah.
So they just released a whole slew of all their nominations.
Mhm.
But the only one we really care about is the Game of the Year.
Game of the Year award, which
Game
is
of
the
the Year.
best.
So they had I think it was like five solid titles.
Was it right? Like 1, 2, 3, 6?
Yeah.
Six
solid titles,
six
yeah.
solid titles. So we
I
got.
think there should have been more there.
You think so?
I
Yeah.
agree.
I think
completely.
that some that were on
Yeah.
the list should not have been on the list.
And I
But-
agree that
To a
completely.
I kind
degree,
of
a little
understand
bit.
some.
Yes, a couple of them. Yeah.
So the first one that they announced was Animal Crossing.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you got Doom Eternal.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also got Final Fantasy VII.
Yep.
You got the remake. You got Ghost of Tsushima. You got Hades. And then you got T-Lu 2. The
Mm-hmm.
Last of Us 2.
Yeah.
So, how did you feel about the lineup, Ray? of
Um,
nominations?
A lot of those I agree with. Like, okay, so one, I think I didn't play it, but I don't think Animal Crossing. I don't know. I guess it depends on how you define Game of the Year. I think
As
it
much as
ultimately
it got
depends.
sold, I could see how it gets tossed in there. But
it depends on
as
how
a
you define Game of
yeah.
the Year. Right? If you're defining like the most successful game, if you're defining it by success as far as monetary success or
Right.
popularity, then yeah, like Animal Crossing hands
It
down
did
should be on that
numbers.
list.
Yeah.
If you're talking about like an artistic piece of work, like how beautiful and wonderful and well built and well named and well acted and voice acted everything it was, then I don't think it should be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I would have rather if it was my list, I would swap Animal Crossing. I know I haven't played it, so it's not entirely fair, but I think just from what I've watched and seen of Animal Crossing, I don't think it
Sure
qualifies as a game that I would put on a Game of the Year award, because usually these types of awards are like artistic. They're more for artistic,
depth.
even movies,
Yeah.
right? Like Marvel Avengers never wins movie of the year, right? Even though it was the most popular, it made the most money. It's one of the other movies that was more artsy,
Even though they're
more
starting to have
dramatic.
more story and more
Yeah,
purpose and all that
Even
stuff,
though they're getting better, they never win movie of the year, right? So in my mind, I probably wouldn't have Animal Crossing on there. I would swap that, I think, for Ori and the Will of the Wisp, man. Like, I think Ori and the Will of the Wisp deserve to be on that list, Like, I don't even think Microsoft has a game on that list. But Ori and the Will of the Wisp is like a dope masterpiece. Like, it's really, really freaking
Is Doom
good.
Eternal on PS5?
Yeah,
Or,
but
on PS4?
yes, Doom Eternal's on PS4. It's a multi-platform.
yeah.
That's a Bethesda game. So yeah, Microsoft will own that, but they're actually still working out the kinks on that arrangement. So they don't actually fully own Doom Eternal yet, and it's not from one of their studios originally. So they don't really even have a game on that list. So while Animal Crossing, I think in a better world, you just add Will of the Wisp. And I don't know why you can have Final Fantasy VII Remake and not have...
it's a remake.
Yeah,
it's not
if you're
like a
allowed to have
brand new
remake, then you should
release.
have Persona 5 Royal on there, as far as I'm concerned. Persona 5 Royal is a masterpiece. I mean, Persona 5 is a masterpiece. That's a game from last year. But Final Fantasy is an old game. Like, it's already won its crown. Like, if you're allowed to have Final Fantasy on there, then I would put Persona 5 Royal on there.
I agree with you 100%. The only reservation I had in my mind is I said next year I want Demon Souls on the list. So I was like, nah. Because I thought the same exact thing. I said, take
Right.
Final Fantasy straight off. But then I was like, well,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want them to take Demon Souls off the list
Yeah,
if it was there.
I can agree.
So I was like,
yeah, I can agree. I'm just saying if that's the rules, if
Yeah.
you're allowed to have remakes on there, then why isn't Royal on there? Like, that was
That's a
like the
good point.
highest. That's literally the highest rated game on Metacritic to date. Even higher than Demon Souls. It's the highest rated game of the year, and it's not on the list. Like,
And one thing that bothered me by these Game of the Year awards is as I was going through these dozens of awards, these like same games were on every
Yeah.
single one. Like
I saw
although
Animal Crossing on like 2 or 3 of them.
dude, Last of
Like,
Us 2 is on all of them
these
almost.
games, Hades 2 was on
Yeah.
nearly every
Yeah.
list. I was like, man, like get some diversity because I agree with your Animal Crossing
Point I was making,
to a
yeah,
certain extent,
right.
Because it seems like all these games except for Animal Crossing, like like those things in school, like which one does not relate to
Right.
Which one doesn't
Which
fit?
one doesn't fit?
It's very because these are all action oriented games, and then
Right.
you have one sim game,
Right.
So
It just doesn't. Yeah, it's like a sore thumb, right? It sticks out like a sore
literally
thumb,
every
right?
game
Yeah.
is an action oriented, game except for one.
I have played Doom Eternal because that's on Game Pass. So I actually finally got a chance. You guys get a chance to play that yet?
I have
Not yet.
not. I
Dude,
was
for-
watching the review on it and whatnot. and it
Dude,
looked
at
cool,
first,
but-
man, like I couldn't control my guy. you move so stinking fast, it's ridiculous. Like I couldn't even. I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta slow down just to like aim my gun to shoot it.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy. But there's some really cool lore there. Like it's really neat. The lore is really neat. You
I
know,
heard you
like
have
where
to
the
read
Slayer
all the
comes
lore,
from.
though.
Yeah, but there's some in the game. Like they
Okay.
teach you some in the game, and I can see why it's so beloved. Like I see why the game is
Dooms
so
are awesome.
beloved. It's
Yeah.
very a well polished, really well polished game. Like it's pretty incredible. So I can see why that's on the list.
Isn't that also
Um,
like a remake?
No, that's a new
That's a
game.
complete.
I mean, Doom is a franchise. It's not a remake of an old game. It's just
Okay,
the,
so they didn't
the continuation.
like re-release like
Mm-mm.
Doom
It's a
Eternal,
new- it's a
like
new-
like something
No,
added,
it's like
some extra to
rebranded.
Doom?
It's like rebranded. You know, new 3D engine and stuff.
Okay.
Like it's a whole new way of playing it.
Okay.
But no, that's its own unique game. Ghost. I'm on the fence of Ghost, to be honest. Like I get why it's there, but I'm on the fence with why that should even be there.
Like
The
I mean, it
games
was
that-
a nice, beautiful game.
Yeah,
but there was some
I'm
things
on the
that I
fence,
didn't
though.
Like
Yeah,
about it,
like-
but I mean, it was cool. Like I could see it kind of being on that list, right? Because if we're looking at everything as
yeah.
a whole,
I can
there's-
see
there's
it,
Not
like-
a whole lot.
Back to Mark's point, like the genre that they seem to have on the list, Ghost fits. But as far as I'm concerned, once again, man, Ori and the Will of the Wisps is better than that game. Like, and I've played both those games, and I can tell you for a fact, I haven't played Animal Crossing, which is why I said with the grain of salt.
Yeah.
But I've played Ghost start to finish, and I've played Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and Ori and the Will of the Wisps is just a better game. But Hades, The Last of Us 2, and Doom Eternal are all worthy of being on that
Now,
list.
I thought Hades was like a come from out of nowhere. You
Yeah,
know what I
that
mean?
was
Because
Hades
I
is
wasn't-
great.
I wasn't expecting something that's for the Nintendo Switch to make it on like a
Yeah.
game of the year. You know, that's not like
Right.
the degree of like Zelda
It's
or
not-
something like that.
Well, and also it's on the Nintendo Switch, but it's not a AAA title. Like Animal Crossing is a
That's
AAA
the only
title,
indie
right?
on the
Yeah,
title.
it's an indie on there,
Yeah.
and it's good. Like
Yeah.
you guys need to get it, and everyone watching, like spend the $10 or whatever. That game is really a masterpiece. Like I was raving about it before,
Yeah.
so I was happy to see on the list. Like I guess people agree. And then The Last of Us 2, that is the pinnacle of perfection. So there's some things I like, some things I don't.
Yeah. For me,
for sure.
I haven't played all these games, but the one based on reviews, based on trailers, based on what the fellas have said, the one that stood out to me out of this list was The Last of Us 2.
Yeah.
And it's the one that, I'm playing through the first one on
Right.
the remaster on
Nice.
PS4.
Right.
But it's the one that I see, in my opinion, if I was a gambling man, I would put my money on The Last of
Yeah.
Us 2.
Yeah.
But the one game that I wish was on this list, and you guys can disagree with me, is the Genshin Impact.
Dude,
Yes, that should have
Because
been.
you're
on
right,
that
dude.
short.
Actually, you're right.
That game, I haven't put a lot of hours like everyone else,
Mhm.
but that game, when I played it on my PC,
It's awesome.
it blew my mind.
Yeah, that should be on there
For-
instead of
there
Final
was a
Fantasy
game.
7.
There, I think the joystick or the Joy-Con list had it on there.
Oh, okay.
And their
it's
list
for the-
was much bigger, and 8 of their list was PlayStation exclusive games.
Dang.
PlayStation just dominated this year, but
Okay.
Genshin was
'Cause
on there.
this- what-
Genshin deserves to be on that list.
What was this? Games Radar or
No, this
something
is
else?
the one. This is the big one.
This
This,
is
is
the
Game
main-
Awards.
main
Yeah,
Game
this is the
Awards,
guy
yeah.
that hosted.
Yeah, Jeff Keighley.
Yeah,
or George Keighley or something
George.
like that?
Yeah, George Keighley. So this is the main one.
Yeah.
But there was another one that people were looking at too.
Yeah, I know there's like
that had
2 or
Genshin
3
Impact
awards
on it.
that
Like I
came-
agree with that actually, Mark. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was one that I wanted to see on there. And Doom Eternal, I was happy that's on there because out of this list, most of them are consoles
Mhm.
exclusives. But that one at least is
Third
something you
party,
can play on
yeah.
PC or you could play on. So I like to see.
Good
I like
point.
to see a fair
Yeah,
fight.
good point.
Right.
But other than that, Final Fantasy, I was kind of on the fence, but I heard how great of a masterpiece it was.
Sure.
So I was
I
like,
mean, it was a great game when
Yes,
it originally
sure.
came out.
they
Sure.
remade a
Sure.
amazing game. So
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Sure, I'm fine. I'm like, if that's the rule, then we need to
Persona.
broaden that up.
But yeah, like you're saying,
Yeah.
Persona is one game that almost everyone I meet, they tell me to play it.
Yeah.
So I see.
Just Persona 5 in
Yeah.
general. Like,
So
even
good.
Not
The
even
Royal
the Royal,
one,
you know what
yeah.
I mean?
So
The Royal's
I-
just extra icing.
yeah. So, but other than that, Hades, I was surprised to see it because you told me about it.
Dude,
I didn't
Hades
play
is
it.
great.
So that kind of solidified
kinda
like,
wanna
wow,
buy it,
this is
right?
a solid
yeah,
game.
it's getting
It's even on
noticed.
the list.
Yeah.
But other than
Mhm.
that, I do like Animal Crossing being on it. I feel like if this was a bigger list, which I think it should have, for Game of the Year, it should be more contenders than just 6
Absolutely.
games.
Absolutely.
Maybe
I
like 10 of them or something like that.
yeah,
maybe,
yeah,
so.
10
Unless
games.
they do it like the Academy Awards for movies, where every year they actually do a lottery on how many will be picked. So they limit themselves on how many they can pick. I don't like that. Just pick great movies,
Yeah, I mean, if you're
But
saying the
you
greatest,
might have like a year where there's just a lot of great
Yeah.
movies.
That's
you know?
fine.
but just think of any sport. All the teams get to compete to be the greatest.
True.
Team.
That's a good point,
So
too.
They all
Yeah.
have a chance,
Mhm.
So this, I feel like it's a little limiting. I'm glad, there is one game that you can play on the Xbox here, which is Doom Eternal. Other than that, everything's PlayStation
And Nintendo. I know.
Wait, you
Yeah.
can't play Final Fantasy VII Remake on
No, it's
Xbox?
PlayStation exclusive.
Because you could play 15 on the Xbox, right?
hmm
You could play 7, like HD version,
The remastered original
remastered-
OG one,
You
but
can play
not
that
this
on the
one, not the
Xbox?
remake.
but not the remake. So literally, there's one game you can play on PC and one game you can play on the Xbox, and it's both Doom, which is good.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Nintendo and Sony, they just make the best games, to be honest. I mean, I hope Xbox gets there someday, but
Yeah.
they do.
Well, it's
Yeah.
just 'cause
Nintendo and Sony make the
Xbox
best
ain't
games.
really making no games.
I know.
So I mean, they just it
That's why I'm
seems like
hoping they
just
get there
started
someday.
this year
You know?
acquiring
Yeah.
game studios. You know what I mean? So I mean, they've been sticking with the same studios for like the longest. 343
Right.
and like maybe one or two other ones. So I feel like the real test will be to see what they can produce next year.
I love you, me.